The moment the courtroom fell silent, courtroom was packed, every seat filled. Every camera pointed toward Keanu Reeves. Flashes of light flickered like nervous heartbeats, reporters whispering into microphones, and the judge's gavel hitting once to demand silence. The world had come to see what the actor known for his humility could possibly be hiding, and what he was about to confess that would shake everyone. Keanu sat quietly, his hands clasped together. He wasn't dressed like a movie star today. No expensive suit, no polished shoes, just a simple black shirt, the same one he had worn to the hospital the night everything began. Across the room sat a woman, her eyes filled with pain and confusion. Her name was Elena. Few people knew her, but her presence had drawn the world's attention because she was the reason Keanu Reeves was on trial. When the judge asked him to speak, Keanu stood. His voice was calm, deep, and strangely gentle. "Before I say anything," he began, "I want everyone here to understand that this isn't about fame, or money, or even my name. This is about something I should have said years ago." The reporters leaned closer. Every eye in the room focused on him. 6 years ago, he continued, there was an accident. It was dark, raining, and I was driving home after filming. I didn't see the car coming, and when it was over, I ran to help. I thought I was saving someone, but I didn't realize until later I was also running from the truth. A murmur spread through the courtroom. Elena looked down, tears filling her eyes. Keanu took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. The man in that car was Elena's husband. He said softly, "And I never told her who I was that night." People gasped. Cameras clicked. The judge raised his hand to restore order, but the shock was already spreading like wildfire through the crowd. Keanu's single quotes, eyes lowered. "I stayed with him until the ambulance came," he said. "I promised him I'd look after his family, but I didn't. I broke that promise." The silence that followed was heavy. It wasn't the kind of silence that asked for drama. It was the kind that carried sorrow. Keanu looked directly at Elena. "I found her again a year later. I helped her without telling her the truth. I told myself it was kindness, but it was guilt." The prosecutor stood. "So you admit you concealed your role in the incident?" Keanu nodded. "Yes. I should have told her. I should have told everyone. But I thought if I helped her quietly, it would somehow make up for what I'd done." Tears slid down Elena's face. You helped me get through everything," she whispered. "The bills, the house, my son's surgery. It was all you." He nodded. "Because it was my fault she had to go through it alone." The judge asked him why he was confessing now. Keanu paused, his voice low. "Because the truth always waits, and sometimes it finds you when you least expect it." The court was silent again. Keanu's lawyer tried to speak, but the actor lifted his hand gently. "No," he said. "Let me finish." He turned to the audience. "The world sees faces on screens and thinks they know us. They don't. We're all just people, carrying our own quiet battles. I carried mine in silence because I thought guilt was the price of compassion. But I was wrong. Silence doesn't heal anyone. Truth does." A tear rolled down his cheek. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't dramatic. It was real, the kind of emotion that silences even those who came to judge. Elena stood up suddenly, her voice shaking. "He saved my son's life," she said, "and he gave us a second chance. I didn't know he was the one behind that night, but I know what he did after. And I forgive him." The crowd gasped again. The judge called for order, but no one moved. Everyone's eyes stayed locked on the two of them, a man confessing his deepest guilt, and a woman finding the strength to forgive him. Keanu closed his eyes, whispering softly, "Thank you." And in that moment, for the first time in years, he looked like a man who could finally breathe. But what the world didn't know, not yet, was that Elena wasn't the only one who had lost someone that night. And the truth Keanu had revealed was only half the story, because the other half was about to destroy everything he had left. The letter that changed everything. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Long after Keanu Reeves stepped down from the witness stand, cameras kept flashing, but the silence between the flashes carried a strange heaviness, like everyone had seen a man bleed without a wound. Elena sat still, tears drying slowly on her face. Forgiveness had left her trembling, but not because it was easy, because it was real. The judge called for a short break. Keanu walked quietly to the hallway, his lawyer trailing behind him. The world outside the courtroom roared with noise, reporters shouting his name, fans holding posters, critics arguing online. But inside that hallway, Keanu felt nothing. No noise, no fame, no film sets, just the echo of his own heart. His lawyer whispered, "We could fight this. You don't have to plead guilty. Your confession might ruin everything." Keanu smiled faintly. "It's already ruined. I just didn't admit it until now." He leaned against the wall, staring at his reflection in a glass door. He looked older than he remembered. Tired eyes, unshaven face, and a sadness that had built itself into his bones. He had carried that night like a shadow for years, and now it had finally caught up. A guard approached him quietly. "Mr. Reeves, there's something for you." The guard handed him a small envelope, old and creased. It had his name written on it, but not in any handwriting he recognized. He hesitated before opening it. Inside was a letter, written in faded blue ink. "Dear Keanu, I don't know if you'll ever see this, but if you do, I want you to know. I forgave you a long time ago. The night of the accident wasn't your fault. My brakes failed before you ever turned that corner. I saw your face. I knew you were trying to help me. I asked one thing of you, to look after Elena. If you did, even from the shadows, then you already kept your promise. Thank you for being there when I took my last breath. It mattered more than you know. Sincerely, Daniel." Keanu froze. His breath caught in his throat. Daniel, Elena's husband, the man whose death had haunted him for 6 years, had written this. But how? Daniel had died that night before the ambulance arrived. Or so Keanu thought. His lawyer stepped closer. "Where did you get that?" "It was found in evidence storage," the guard explained. "The police said it was written the night before the accident, but never mailed. They only discovered it last week." Keanu stared at the paper. His hands trembled slightly. The night before the accident, Daniel must have sensed something was wrong. Maybe he knew his car had issues. Maybe he wanted to make peace with whoever fate brought to that road. For years, Keanu believed he was the cause of a tragedy. Now he realized he had been part of something much deeper, something between guilt and grace. But the moment of peace didn't last, because that's when a voice behind him said, "Mr. Reeves, we need to talk about the missing fund." He turned. It was the prosecutor. She looked calm but firm. "The financial records from the charity you donated to, the one for Elena's son's surgery, don't add up. $500,000 vanished right after your contribution." Keanu frowned. "That's impossible. I never touched that money. It went directly to the hospital." The prosecutor raised a file. "Then you might want to see who handled the transfer." Inside the file was a name, one that made Keanu's stomach tighten. Charles Whitmore. Keanu single quotes S former business manager, a man he hadn't spoken to in years. The same man who'd handled all his charitable donations and investments. The same man who had vanished 2 years ago after an internal audit showed irregularities. The prosecutor's tone sharpened. "We have evidence suggesting the funds were moved to an offshore account under your name. It looks like a cover-up." Keanu's heart pounded. "No," he said softly. "No, that's not true. I never." "We'll discuss it in court," she said, turning away. Keanu stood frozen in the hallway, the letter still in his hand. One truth had freed him, but another lie was now threatening to destroy him again. When he looked back at Elena through the glass window, she was watching him. Her eyes were full of confusion and fear. The forgiveness she had given him moments ago now trembled under doubt. He wanted to go to her, to explain, but she turned away first. And for the first time in years, Keanu felt something he hadn't felt even on that rainy night: helplessness. As the hallway grew quiet again, he looked down at Daniel's letter and whispered, "I kept my promise, but I don't know if it's enough anymore." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, just like it had 6 years ago. And deep down, Keanu knew the storm wasn't over. The truth had set him free, but it had also opened a door to something darker. The betrayal behind the kindness. Next morning, Keanu Reeves woke up to the sound of rain tapping against the glass of his hotel window. It was the same sound that had haunted his dreams for 6 years. That storm, that crash, that promise. He sat at the edge of his bed, staring at the letter from Daniel on the nightstand. The ink was smudged now, blurred by the rain that had soaked his hands when he held it the day before. He whispered, "You forgave me, but can I forgive myself?" His phone buzzed. It was a text from Elena. "We need to talk before court." His chest tightened. After yesterday's revelation about the missing funds, everything between them felt fragile again. She had forgiven him once, but forgiveness built on shaky truth could break with a whisper. He met her later in a small cafe across from the courthouse. She looked tired, her eyes red from crying. She wasn't the woman who had stood in court bravely defending him. She was someone who looked like she'd lost trust again. "Elena," Keanu began softly, "whatever they said about the charity money isn't true. I didn't touch that account." "Then who did?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Because the prosecutor showed me documents. It was your signature, Keanu. The money for my son's surgery, half of it never reached the hospital." How do I explain that to him? He clenched his jaw. "My business manager handled everything. Charles Whitmore. He's the one who disappeared when the audit started." Elena looked down. "So you trusted the wrong person again." He sighed, guilt heavy in his chest. "Yes, I keep thinking I can fix things with good intentions, but it always ends up hurting someone." She stayed quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I want to believe you. I really do. Because when I lost everything, you were the only person who helped. But now, it feels like I'm losing that trust again." Her voice broke at the last word. Keanu leaned forward, his voice low. "Elena, I'll prove it. I'll find Charles. I'll show you the truth. I can't let your son grow up thinking kindness is a lie." She looked up at him, searching his eyes. For a moment, she saw something there. Not fame, not pity, but raw honesty. "You have 3 days," she whispered. "After that, the court decides." By evening, Keanu was on the phone with private investigators. Every clue led to one place, the Bahamas. Charles Whitmore had fled there 2 years ago, living under a fake name. Keanu's team booked him a flight the next morning. Before leaving, he visited the hospital where Elena's son, Liam, had once been treated. The staff still remembered him. The quiet donor who refused to take credit for saving a child's life. One nurse said softly, "Your kindness reached more than just that family, Mr. Reeves. You inspired others to give too." But Keanu only smiled weakly. Kindness without truth is still a lie. That night, as he packed his things, he found something strange tucked in the back of his travel bag. An old USB drive labeled Phoenix Project. It was from Charles's office, given to him years ago when they were planning a film fundraiser. He had forgotten it existed. Curiosity stirred inside him. He plugged it into his laptop. What opened wasn't a film document. It was a financial record. Offshore accounts, fake signatures, charity diversions, and a list of celebrity names Charles had used to move money undetected. His own name appeared more than 20 times, but that wasn't the worst part. The last folder contained photos of Charles with Elena. Keanu's single quotes, "S blood ran cold." The timestamps were from 4 years ago, long before she knew who he really was. She looked happy in those pictures, unaware that the man smiling beside her was stealing from the very charity she trusted. He scrolled further. One message stood out. "She believes the funds are coming from anonymous donors. Keep it that way. The less she knows, the better." Keanu slammed the laptop shut. His hands shook. His chest burned. For years, he had believed he was protecting Elena by keeping the truth of that night secret. But now he saw the cruel irony. While he hid his guilt, someone else had used his silence to commit betrayal in his name. He whispered, "Charles used her, used me, and now we're both paying for it." Outside, lightning cracked across the sky, lighting up his reflection in the window. He looked like a man who'd spent years trying to do good in a world that fed on secrets. His phone rang again, unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice said quietly, "You shouldn't have opened that drive." "Keanu," his breath caught. "Charles." The voice laughed softly. "You were always too honest for this world. But honesty doesn't win trials. And tomorrow, they'll believe what I made you look like. A fraud pretending to be a saint." The call ended. Keanu stood still, the rain pounding harder. The next day, he'd be back in court. But this time, he wasn't walking in with guilt. He was walking in with truth. and a storm that could destroy more than reputations. Because the real story behind his kindness was about to come out, and not everyone wanted it to. Asterisk. The storm that broke the silence. Next morning, the courtroom looked different. It wasn't just the flashing lights or the cameras that made it tense. It was the energy. Like everyone could feel something big was about to happen. Keanu Reeves walked in quietly, his expression calm, but his eyes focused. He carried a black folder in his hand, the one that contained the USB drive and every secret Charles Whitmore had tried to bury. Elena was already there. She didn't look at him when he entered. Her hands were folded tightly, her eyes fixed on the table in front of her. She wanted to trust him, but part of her was terrified to hope again. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The trial resumed. The prosecutor began. Your Honor, we have new evidence connecting Mr. Reeves to the missing charity funds. Documents show his signature on multiple transfers to offshore accounts. The crowd murmured. The prosecutor turned toward him, confident. Mr. Reeves, do you deny your signature appears on these records? Keanu nodded calmly. No, I don't deny that my signature appears there. But I didn't put it there. The prosecutor frowned. Then who did? He opened his folder and pulled out the USB drive. This will show you, he said quietly. The judge gestured for the bailiff to take it. Within minutes, the files appeared on the courtroom screen. Lines of transactions, email exchanges, coded messages, everything. The prosecutor's confident expression slowly faded. These files were hidden under a project called Phoenix, Keanu explained. My business manager, Charles Whitmore, used my foundation's name to launder money. He copied my signature and diverted donations through fake charities. Elena's son's surgery fund was one of them. Gasps filled the courtroom. Even Elena looked shocked. She whispered, Phoenix Project. I saw that name once on a donation receipt. Keanu nodded. He used it for everything. He made it look like generosity, but behind it, he was stealing from people who trusted him. The judge leaned forward. And how did you come into possession of this evidence? Keanu said softly, he sent it to me years ago, hidden in plain sight. I thought it was work material. I never opened it until last night. The prosecutor tried to recover. Do you have proof this Charles Whitmore is responsible? Keanu clicked to the last file. A video opened. Security footage. Charles Whitmore in his office, speaking on the phone. His voice filled the courtroom. He'll never know. Keanu's too good for his own good. He thinks honesty can save him. By the time he realizes what I've done, everyone will already think it was him. The courtroom fell completely silent. Even the judge paused, stunned. Keanu lowered his eyes. That was recorded 2 years ago, 1 week before Charles disappeared. Elena covered her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. She turned toward him for the first time. You were telling the truth. He nodded quietly. But the truth doesn't matter if no one listens. The judge called for order, his gavel echoing sharply. We'll need to verify this evidence, but if it's authentic, it changes everything. Keanu sat down, his body trembling slightly from the tension he'd carried for days. For the first time, he wasn't the one defending himself. He was defending the truth. The prosecutor looked defeated. Your Honor, we request a recess to review the material. The judge agreed. Court was adjourned for the day. Outside, the rain poured harder than before. Keanu stood under the courthouse awning, staring out into the gray sky. Elena approached him slowly. You found the proof, she said softly. I had to, he replied. For Daniel, for you, for Liam. She looked at him, her expression breaking between guilt and gratitude. I doubted you again. I'm sorry. He shook his head. You had every reason to. I've spent so long trying to make things right that I forgot people don't just need help. They need honesty. A long silence followed. Raindrops pattered against the pavement. Then she asked quietly, what happens now? He sighed. Now they'll try to find Charles. And when they do, everything I've built will come under question again. Every donation, every cause. Maybe it should. Maybe the truth deserves to burn through all of it. She reached out and touched his hand gently. You did good, Keanu, even when it cost you peace for a moment. Their eyes met, two souls carrying grief and grace in equal measure. But before either could speak again, a black car pulled up to the curb. A man stepped out, wearing sunglasses and a raincoat. He walked straight toward Keanu and handed him an envelope. Keanu opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Charles Whitmore sitting at a beachside bar, alive, smiling, holding a drink, and under the photo, a message: "Stop digging, or Elena loses more than forgiveness." Keanu froze. His pulse quickened. Elena saw the color drain from his face. "What is it?" she asked. He hid the photo quickly and forced a small smile. "Nothing," he said softly, "just an old memory." But his eyes said something else, something she couldn't yet read. As the car drove away, Keanu looked back at the sky. The rain hadn't stopped. Neither had the storm inside him. Because now, the truth had a new price, and someone was willing to make him pay it. The man in the shadow. At night, Keanu Reeves couldn't sleep. Thunder rolled above Los Angeles, but the sky itself was restless. He sat by the window, staring at the photograph Charles Whitmore had sent him. The man who betrayed him, smiling like he still owned the world. He flipped the photo over again. The back was blank except for one faint smudge, like a fingerprint. Keanu ran his thumb over it and whispered, "You can run, Charles, but you can't hide forever." He thought of Elena and Liam, of the quiet forgiveness she had offered him, and the fragile peace that could now shatter with one wrong step. Whoever sent that message knew exactly how to break him, not by hurting him, but by threatening those he cared about. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "You shouldn't have shown the files in court," a cold voice said. It was Charles. "You're alive," Keanu replied calmly. "And you're watching." "Watching?" "No, managing. You were supposed to take the fall quietly. Instead, you made it public. You stole money meant to save a child," Keanu said. "You used my name, my trust, my silence." Charles chuckled. "Your silence was your weakness. You always believed the truth was enough. But people don't care about truth, Keanu. They care about stories. And I control yours now." Before Keanu could reply, the call ended. He sat there, gripping the phone. His reflection in the glass looked nothing like the calm man who once smiled for cameras. It was someone stripped down to raw humanity, tired, angry, determined. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and left. 2 hours later, he was driving through the rain, heading toward the small coastal town where the photo had been taken. His contact had traced it to a bar in Santa Cruz, the same place Charles had once joked about retiring to when honesty finally caught up. When Keanu arrived, the air smelled of sea salt and secrets. He parked quietly and walked into the dimly lit bar. Only a few people were there, fishermen, locals, tired faces. The bartender looked up. "You seen this man?" Keanu asked, sliding the photo across the counter. The bartender glanced at it. His eyes flickered with recognition, but he hesitated. "Yeah," he muttered finally. "Comes by every Thursday. Big spender. Likes to sit in the back booth." "And when was the last time you saw him?" "Yesterday." Keanu's pulse quickened. "Did he say where he was going?" The bartender nodded slowly. "He left in a hurry. Said something about a flight. But he dropped this." He reached under the counter and handed Keanu a hotel keycard. "Pacific Sands Hotel. Room to 1 for." Keanu thanked him and left. At the hotel, he moved quietly, his hood pulled low. The hallway smelled of cheap perfume and sea air. When he reached room 114, the door was slightly open. Inside, the lights were off, but the TV flickered faintly. He pushed the door open and stepped in. The room was empty, except for a single envelope on the bed, addressed to him. He opened it slowly. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. "You wanted the truth, but the truth never comes free. The files on this drive will clear your name forever. But if you use them, Elena will pay the price." Keanu's single quotes jaw tightened. His hands trembled slightly as he looked around the room. On the nightstand, a photo of Elena and Liam, clearly taken from her house. Someone had been there. He whispered, "What have you done, Charles?" Then, from behind him, a voice said, "You should have stayed quiet." Keanu turned sharply. A man stood in the doorway, one of Charles's hired men. Tall, broad, wearing a dark raincoat. "Where's Charles?" Keanu asked. The man smirked. "On his way out of the country. He said to give you a message." Keanu stayed still. What message? The man's eyes narrowed. That kindness makes you weak, and weakness doesn't survive men like him. Before the man could reach for his gun, Keanu moved. Years of discipline and training took over, calm, precise, efficient. He disarmed the man with one motion, pushing him back into the hallway. The weapon clattered to the ground. Keanu stood over him, his voice steady. Tell him the same thing I told myself for years. Silence doesn't heal anyone. He walked away, heart pounding, the flash drive burning in his pocket. The next morning, he returned to the courthouse. His lawyer met him at the door. They're ready to review the evidence, she said. This time, Keanu said quietly, I'll give them everything. As they walked in, Elena approached him. She looked worried. I've been getting strange calls, she whispered. Someone knows where we live. He squeezed her hand gently. I'll handle it. She looked into his eyes. Please don't lose yourself trying to fix what others broke. Keanu nodded. I already lost myself once. Now I'm just trying to find what's left. And with that, he entered the courtroom again, ready to expose everything, even if it meant burning his own peace to do it. Because now, it wasn't just about redemption. It was about survival. The truth that saved them. Rain had stopped that morning, but the air still felt heavy, as if the storm hadn't left. It had only moved inside the courthouse. The world was watching. Every seat was taken. Every camera turned toward one man. Keanu Reeves walked in quietly, holding a single flash drive in his hand, the one that could destroy or save everything. Elena sat near the front, her eyes never leaving him. She didn't know what was on that drive. No one did. But she saw the calm in his face, the same calm she'd seen the night he confessed. And for the first time in days, she believed that maybe, just maybe, truth could still win. The judge spoke. Mr. Reeves, you've been granted the opportunity to present final evidence in your defense. Do you wish to proceed? Keanu nodded. Yes, Your Honor, I do. He walked to the stand slowly, his footsteps echoing in the room. What I'm about to show you, he said softly, is not just about proving innocence. It's about how easily trust can be stolen and how silence can let evil grow. He handed the flash drive to the technician. Within seconds, the courtroom screens came alive. It wasn't just bank records this time. It was a series of video files, hidden recordings Charles Whitmore had made of his own calls, bragging about using celebrities for money laundering. In one clip, Charles's voice was clear. Keanu's perfect. The world sees him as pure. I use his name, and no one questions it. It's beautiful, really. They call it charity. I call it profit. The audience gasped. The judge's gavel hit the bench. But Keanu lifted his hand. There's more. The next file played. Another voice joined Charles's. This time, it wasn't a stranger. It was someone from the foundation's board, a man everyone trusted. As long as he keeps quiet about that accident, the guilt will keep him obedient. People like him never fight back. Keanu's eyes darkened, but his voice stayed calm. They knew I blamed myself for that night. They used it to control me, to make me sign whatever they needed signed. The judge leaned forward. And the woman, Elena Hart? Keanu turned to face her gently. They used her too. They made her believe the charity was genuine. They took her trust, the same way they took mine. The prosecutor stood, voice uneasy. This is shocking, Your Honor, but we'll need to confirm authenticity. Keanu nodded. You can. I already sent copies to the police, to the FBI, and to every donor they stole from. Because this time, I won't stay silent. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Elena pressed her hands to her lips, tears falling silently. Keanu continued, his voice breaking but steady. For years, I thought redemption meant hiding my mistakes. But I've learned that real redemption is telling the truth, even when it hurts. I didn't come here to protect my name. I came here to honor the people I failed, and the man who forgave me before he died. He looked at Elena with quiet pain. Daniel's letter saved me. It reminded me that forgiveness isn't a gift we earn. It's something we give to ourselves when we face what we fear most, the truth. The judge sat in silence for a long moment. Then he said softly, this court will verify the recordings, but based on what we've seen. Mr. Reeves, it appears you were a victim, not a perpetrator. You are hereby cleared of all charges pending full investigation. The gavel struck. The sound echoed like thunder breaking through clouds, but the story didn't end there. Outside, reporters shouted questions, cameras flashing like lightning. Keanu walked past them without a word. He didn't want the fame of being right. He just wanted peace. Elena caught up to him near the courthouse steps. She looked at him, her eyes full of emotion. "You did it," she said. He smiled faintly. "No, the truth did." She stepped closer. "And what now?" He looked at the sky, pale and clear after the storm. "Now, I do what I should have done years ago. Rebuild not a reputation, but a purpose." She nodded. "You kept your promise, Keanu. Daniel would be proud." He turned to her, his voice soft. "I didn't do it alone." A small silence passed between them. Then, from across the street, a young voice shouted, "Mom!" Liam ran toward them, his little hands clutching a small paper in the rain. He handed it to Keanu. "I made this for you." Keanu knelt down, unfolding the wet paper. It was a drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands under a blue sky. At the bottom, Liam had written in uneven letters, "Thank you for saving my mom's smile." Keanu felt something break open inside him, not pain, not guilt, but peace. He looked at Elena, who was crying softly. He smiled. "Your son draws better than I ever could." She laughed through her tears. "He draws hope. That's what you gave back to us." Keanu looked at the courthouse behind them, the place where the world had come to see a man fall, but instead saw a man stand. "Maybe that's all we ever really have," he said quietly. "Hope. And the courage to start again." As they walked away together, the clouds finally parted. Sunlight spilled over the city, touching every broken thing it could reach. And for the first time in years, Keanu Reeves felt something he hadn't felt since that rainy night long ago. Forgiveness. Not from the world, but from himself.